What's an illegal thing you used to do on a regular basis without knowing it was illegal to begin with? When I was a kid, I thought it was normal that we could buy movies the day after they came out from the Chinese lady in the chicken shop. I didn't realize it was a crime until middle school when I told someone my grandma had Avatar on DVD and they said that was impossible since the movie was still in theaters. Downloading music through YouTube to MP3. I used to think the little olive kiosks in grocery stores were samples. I would always leave with a little produce bag of various olives and enjoy my treat on the ride home. I had odd tastes as a kid. Had a friend who liked to touch all the paintings in museums. She had been doing this her whole life, thought it was totally normal, and had just happened never to get caught. She did not believe me when I told her that you aren't allowed to. We got kicked out of the museum. To those asking how we got kicked out, or rather, she got kicked out and I left with her, she walked down a row of paintings and dragged her hand across every one of them, and a pretty pissed-off-looking guard asked her to, please leave. No dramatic scene or anything, probably could have stayed if she'd explained that she really didn't know, but she was pretty embarrassed by the whole thing, so we just hustled out. I once had this coworker that was always coming up with hair-brained business schemes. One day he comes in and start going on this rant about how he's going to become a millionaire. He explains that he recently purchased like 10,000 SD cards from China, and he got a card reader for them. They cost like 50 cents each or something, and he's all like, but they can hold up to 10 gigabytes of data each. That's enough for like 4 movies, and I can sell them for like $20 each. He goes on to talk about the incredible margins his new business is going to have, and how he just needs to earn back enough so he can afford to upgrade to a multi-card reader. Also, his big plan was to put this stuff on my MySpace, and then mail the cards to people. At this point I'm feeling bad for the guy since he's obviously already dumped $$ into this, but figured it's better for him to lose that than land himself in prison. So I'm like, dude, you realize that's illegal, right? You're going to get FBI coming after you for movie piracy. The look on his face, just like, completely defeated. Felt sorry for him, but seriously. Trespassing. As a kid, think 6, 7, my younger brother and I would go over into our neighbor's yard, he had a fantastic garden, and play quietly. He never said anything, he was a World War II vet and lived alone. I guess we amused him. When he died, a new family moved into the house. We continued our ventures into the yard and the family must have found out, because we walked over one day to be met with a locked fence. Our days of playtime were over. Edit. I got a lot of comments about his trauma and to be honest I never really thought about my neighbor's backstory, so I asked my mom. Apparently he lived alone because he had disowned his son for being gay, and once his wife died he stopped coming around. When he was dying my dad and mom visited him because no one else was. He was delirious and thought my dad was his son and started apologizing and saying he should have been a better dad. The son in question never showed up to visit, but when he came to the neighborhood to look at the house, my dad told him what his father had said. He broke down sobbing. I guess we were like the grandchildren he never had. Either way, this whole story was more depressing than I thought, so I'm going to grab some tissues. Edit 2. A wholesome award. Just. Why? Edit 2.1. I meant this more as I don't think this is wholesome, I see it as sad. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. Not me, but a friend of mine accidentally stole coffee for an entire semester. We had a small cafe on campus that sold small meals you could take to class and drinks. They had their coffee area set up next to the counter. So you had to order and pay for it, then they would give you a cup and you would go fill it up yourself. She thought it was free and would just go up to it a few times a day and fill up her reusable cup. She finally noticed after we ran into each other in line and she watched me order mine and pay for it. Until I saw the sign posted as I exited Yellowstone National Park, I was unaware that it's illegal to make elk noises at the elk. I'd been riding around on my motorcycle making elk noises all week. They love it. They all look up and stare at you as you ride past. Old job, I had a snack bar in the conference room. It was always open and I thought you can just go and take a snack during break. It was odd how there was always a lot of food left, so I would take several sandwiches, snacks, and drinks before going home. Did this for months and always thought it was allowed and normal. Until management made an announcement that the food in the conference room aren't for low-level employees but for meetings and managers and so on. Accounting department also declared that the food was a waste of money as the majority of it was thrown out by the end of the day. Food was still being taken because no one enforced the rules there. Also, taking leftover food from the food places. I remember back in the days of Napster and LimeWire when everyone said I'd go to jail for downloading a Blink-182 album. In reality, I just gave my computer super aids. Probably not illegal, but when I was younger my dad taught me how to trick the kiddie ride at my local Walmart so that I could continue riding without having to pay a quarter or whatever the fee was. As a teen living in the US, Utah to be specific, and I was really questioning the sanitation of the utensils in the high school cafeteria. So I was carrying a multipurpose tool with me that had a fork and a spoon on it. However, I wasn't aware that it had a fully functional blade on it, 3 3/4 inches to be precise. Oops. Edit. Okay, to answer a few questions that I frequently got, here's some more context. Through some recent researching via incognito mode, even though it is illegal in Utah to carry a straight-up knife to school, you are allowed to carry around a pocket knife as long as the blade is below 2.5 inches, but as my blade goes over that line, it's still technically illegal. And speaking of the length, I accidentally measured an extra inch for some weird reason, so it's closer to 2 3/4 inches, but it's still over the mark. I flew with pepper spray in my backpack upwards of 15 times. I didn't think about it being potentially illegal, and TSA never caught it. I only stopped when I saw a sign that said no aerosols and I asked someone nearby in line if pepper spray was an aerosol. He was like yeah, and definitely illegal. So I threw it in the trash. Makes me concerned that TSA never found it, and concerned that I'm really dumb. Used to carry a switchblade around when I was 14 or so, that shit's blade was huge. Thankfully no one ever stopped me. After a year or so discovered in my country switchblades were illegal to carry. Delivered homemade wine for a friend's dad. He'd give me and a buddy a list of addresses, load down the car and send us on our way. We'd bring him the money, he'd give us both our own jug for the trouble. Not me, but my cousin, who is now in his upper 20s, thought up until a few years ago that the paper yard bags stacked outside of hardware stores were free. He would routinely grab a stack on the way out to his car. I make a lot of things out of wood and metal. I didn't know how aggressive railyards can be about their shit. A few times in my life I've found railroad spikes partially buried in pebbles up to 10 feet away from the track, and I've taken those to make knives and jewelry with. Turns out they do not like it when people take their rusted, busted junk that they leave to the elements. Use an R4 card in my Nintendo Ds that my family gave to me full of games. I never knew that it was illegal as they bought it just like I would for any other DS game. I figured that they just got one heck of a good deal. Drive body parts across county lines. I taught anatomy labs at a community college and used to take the brains and other internal organs for my high school science students to study. I did this for 5 years until the dean at the college pulled me into his office and asked why I had body parts on a cart, heading out of the building. I assured him I had been doing this each semester and that I would bring them back the next evening and students wouldn't miss them. He assured me that I wouldn't because apparently you need a license to transport cadaver materials to another county and that I was likely committing a felony. Whoops. Forging signatures when I was younger because my mom wouldn't sign something or didn't have the time. It looked exactly the same too. By younger I mean 8. Edit. I had a lot of fun reading this thread and I think you 1k hash first time. Fun fact, there's only one T, that's just your brain. When I was a little kid, I used to draw and make cards for the neighbors I liked. Then I would put them in their mailboxes. That's illegal. Technically only the post office is allowed to put things in a mailbox. I used to set my Nintendo Switch location to Denver where there is no sales tax until my mother told me that it's tax evasion. Underage drinking. In the country where my family is from, it's perfectly acceptable. Underage sex. My buddy got caught with the mayor's daughter, they were 14 months apart, and the law was 12, and the prosecutor wanted to put him on the sex offenders list. It was new, and we had no idea how much it would screw up his life. His dad got him a lawyer. Back when my ex was a barista at Starbucks, I would drive her to work every day at 4 a.m. and take a specific route. Thought nothing of it, and the route became muscle memory. One day she asks me to pick her up early and I take the usual route. After I make a right turn on a red light, perfectly legal in the US, I suddenly get those dreaded lights flash behind me. The police officer came up to my window and asked for my credentials. Fine, I thought. I considered myself a very competent driver up to this point and had never gotten into a crash or so much as gotten a ticket. I was also upset by the officer's cold demeanor. She comes back and the conversation went something like this. Officer, do you know why I pulled you over? Me, annoyed, no. Officer, do you realize that turn you made back there was illegal? Me, last time I checked it was legal to turn right on red, no? Officer, sure, but there's obviously a sign that says that you can't do it at that specific intersection. Me, impossible. I've been taking that turn every day for the past 6 months. Officer. Sure enough, after the officer gave me the, asterisk serious, look along with my ticket, I drove back to the intersection and every traffic light had a, do not turn on red, sign on it, as if the police officer themselves had circled back and installed them before I could get there. I totally deserved that ticket, lol. Riding my bike without a helmet. Yep. It's the law in Queensland, Australia. https:/www.qld.gov.au/transport/safety/rules/wheel-devices/bicycle-helmets so is driving without a seatbelt. I have multiple prescription medications I must take every day. I organize them in one of those 7-day pill organizers. Carrying prescription meds in containers other than the ones they were dispensed in is illegal in multiple U.S. states. Georgia and Maine come to mind. You can be busted for illegal possession of your own prescription drugs. Jaywalking. Put my recycling in my neighbor's bin. My landlord hides mine for some reason. I asked him once and he said we didn't have any. I can see it in our backyard from my porch. Apparently going to and from school alone as a 8 years old. I used to go to a specific big box store and print photos at the photo kiosk, then leave with them without paying. I always assumed the kiosk would ask me to put a card in to pay for the pictures before it would print them, but it never did. Lo and behold, it would always print my photos without asking for payment. I just assumed then that maybe you can just print photos for free, which I thought was pretty cool at the time. I brought this up to my wife at some point years later when she said I definitely am supposed to take those to the register to pay for them. Well, I ended up with tons of free photos over the years because of this. It probably saved me a total of $20 worth of pictures. I was a little thief as a kid and I got insanely good at it too. Like I could steal candy, bags of beef jerky, drinks, and basically anything in a store without being caught. Mind you, I was like 8 and I didn't realize that it was wrong. Fuck my parents, man. They never taught me shit.